Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, what does legal sports betting mean for Indiana? A Hoosier tech company unveils its latest offering. A company serving commercial kitchens continues its growth. Trendiana looks at destination shopping throughout the state. A homegrown company looks to make school water safer. We preview the Indy Women in Tech Championship, and our insiders weigh in on the top stories of the week. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. By putting bets on the Colts, Pacers, and Fever to win championships, Governor Eric Holcomb led Indiana into being the 12th U.S. state to allow legal sports betting. The new gaming law went into effect September 1st. Casino Association of Indiana President and CEO Matt Bell joined Inside Indiana Business host Gary Dick to talk about what it means for Indiana.
Big news this week, and certainly something that a lot of people were anticipating. What was the reaction in week one to legalize sports betting in Indiana?
The reaction's been characterized by tremendous excitement by the Hoosier consumer. I think clearly it's been demonstrated that there's a pent-up market of folks who want to find a way to wager legally on the games and the sports and the events that they love. We've seen wonderful crowds at grand openings from Shelbyville to Indianapolis, in Northwest Indiana, at Boyd Gaming today, at Penn, and in East Chicago as well. It's an exciting time for the Hoosier bettor and a great opportunity to allow folks a legal and transparent and regulated way to wager on the sports that they love.
Yeah, we saw it officially kick off last weekend, Governor Holcomb placing those initial bets in Shelbyville. As you look at the locations, because essentially you have to go to a licensed casino, correct, to make those bets. Talk about how this rollout is going to happen. Not every casino is offering it right now, but that ultimately, at least for the most part, will happen.
It will happen. We believe it'll be present at every Indiana casino and racino and off-track betting parlor across the state. Our properties are doing an amazing job of working aggressively to make investments that generate world-class facilities for the Hoosier consumer to come and enjoy sports wagering amenities on par with things that you'd find in Las Vegas or anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And what has prevented folks from moving faster is simply the task of constructing those facilities, making sure all the licensure and regulation process is in place. But it's been a tremendous effort on both the part of the state and our operators to be up and running in advance of the NFL football season.
Indiana, to the surprise of some, was pretty aggressive in making this happen. What, in your view, Matt, is the potential from an economic standpoint of sports betting in Indiana, including the potential of getting bettors from neighboring states which don't, at least not yet, have legalized sports betting?
So I think the potential is significant, and I think we'll see additional revenue of more than $50 million a year once sports wagering is fully implemented, which will include mobile wagering offerings in Indiana that are coming sooner rather than later. What I think sports wagering offers is a new amenity, a new reason for folks to experience the world-class properties that we have in Indiana, a new opportunity for them to enjoy the teams and games that they love so very much. And we think that'll drive interest in those teams, in those games. The benefit will be felt by folks like our Indianapolis Colts, our Indianapolis Pacers, even our colleges and universities, because we believe the market will drive increased viewership, and there's a lot of data that supports that.
Where could this lead? You mentioned mobile betting. That is going to happen, as you said, sooner rather than later. It's not there yet. But what about in-game gambling and sports betting, those types of things? Are those possibilities? People talk about the 500, betting on who's leading a particular lap. Is that feasible, reasonable to think could happen?
So Indiana legislators took a hard look at that and decided that, in fact, they wanted to give our Indiana Gaming Commission the ability to authorize in-game wagers. Now, those can take a lot of different forms. Probably the most popular would be adjusting the point spread at halftime of a game, be that a basketball game or a football game, which is a way to keep folks who may have placed a bet early, and that bet may no longer be feasible, to stay engaged in that game and in that action. Absolutely, the door is open to things like wagering on intermittent action during the Indianapolis 500. The key becomes having reliable data, and we've given that responsibility to the Indiana Gaming Commission to determine what sources our sportsbook operators can use to determine a bet. And they're ready and willing to take that responsibility.
Very quickly, we only have about 15 seconds, but other states, neighboring states are going to ultimately be in. Indiana have an advantage kind of being one of the first out there in the marketplace?
Once again, Indiana leads in the Midwest, and that's a credit to our Indiana operators. It's also a credit to our Indiana regulators. They put forth a world-class set of regulations, pushed our operators to invest aggressively and be licensed aggressively, and they rose to that challenge. It's a win for Indiana.
Will be interesting to watch this all develop. Matt Bell, the president and CEO of the Casino Association of Indiana. Thanks, Matt. As always, we'll talk to you soon.
It's great to be with you, sir. Thank you.
Still to come, a commercial kitchen company continues to grow, and a tour of Indiana's destination shopping spots. But first, South Bend-based Venly has launched its latest content intelligence platform. The tool aims to allow marketers to use artificial intelligence to develop and organize content. Vice President of Product Strategy Bart Frischknecht came in studio with more.
Now, the company launched in 2013.
That's right.
I believe. Give us a thumbnail description of the business model.
Yeah, that's right. So in 2013, two Notre Dame affiliates had this vision that we could help companies by connecting what really mattered to their customers to their messaging. And that led to a lot of success as a technology-enabled services company that we've been doing for the last 6 years, helping organizations with our insights and services to get those messages to their customers. This summer, we launched a new product that takes that offering and brings it into software.
And essentially, you talk about bridging the gap. Talk about that and how Venly bridges that gap for companies as and their marketing message.
That's right. So companies recognize that they can learn a lot by talking to their customers and understanding what's really most important to them. At the same time, marketers are under a lot of pressure to get content out the door, to get those messages out the door. And there's a gap between the good insights they have about their customer and the pressure to get some topics down and create that content. And that gap is really a planning gap. It's difficult to create effective content and to get all those details right. And so we see a gap in the ability to have a smart content planning platform, something that uses data, artificial intelligence, and helps a marketer to accelerate that planning process so that we can connect those two important pieces, the insights and then the action.
Talk about the growth of the company, you talk about the new product, but the acceptance out of the marketplace, the companies, the customers you have.
Yeah, we're really excited. We're in the early stages of this new product and already seeing a lot of people coming onto our free trial and our early adopter program, and expect to have tremendous growth over the next year, really with marketers of all sizes, but especially those mid-market companies that have a marketing department, but don't necessarily have all the resources of the largest companies.
I think Venly is a great example of what can happen in Indiana when you got the intellectual property coming out of and the talent coming out of universities, merging, creating companies. Talk about that because this is a Notre Dame success story. There have been a number of others too that have happened.
Yeah, that's right. So thinking about Professor Urbany's experience in the classroom really led to the strategy model behind Venly, and that really highlighted the opportunity to really understand customer choice at a deep level. And being close to the university and close to that association has really helped us from a talent recruitment perspective as well as the intellectual property.
Final question, what's next? How do you look at growth opportunities? Obviously, your presence in South Bend, with your headquarters in downtown South Bend, also here in Indy. Where do you see growth opportunities?
That's right. So we're really excited about the Indy market because there's such a presence of marketing technology and growing firms here. And we've also partnered with several great groups that have helped us to accelerate our own design and development. But our footprint is really national. With a software as a service business model, we can really reach marketers wherever they are, and we expect to keep growing.
Very good. Exciting things happening at Venly. The Notre Dame, what was a startup now, is really beginning to gain traction. Bart Frischknecht is the VP of Product Strategy. Bart, as always, welcome to the program. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right.
Later in the podcast, Trendiana takes you to Indiana's destination shopping spots, and an Indiana startup targets school water safety. But now, Indianapolis-based Nelbud Services is expanding its hood cleaning, fire protection, and grease trap services footprint. The company is now serving commercial kitchens in 23 states. CEO Michael Crafton joined us to talk about the company's growth story.
I want to talk about the growth at Nelbud, but first of all, this, in my opinion, great entrepreneurial success story that you deserve the credit for. Give us a very quick thumbnail of how this all started as 360 Services.
Absolutely.
A number of years ago. That was basically your baby, right?
Absolutely. So December of 2005 was my first cleaning. Basically started with $800 in a pickup truck. Started as a joke at a bar late night in Broad Ripple. Ended up quitting my job the next day. Had no idea what I was doing. Printed off a 4-page paper on how to clean exhaust hoods and started from there.
And really put a lot of elbow grease in it, literally. You merged with Nelbud, several years ago, a big provider, a big company out in New Jersey. Talk about the company now, because certainly the hood cleaning services, a big chunk, the majority of your business, but you're doing other things as well.
Absolutely. So Nelbud Services Group, we merged with them in 2015. They were an Atlantic City-based 35-year-old business, and they provided hood cleaning as the largest provider in the country at the time. And wastewater services, as 360 was known for their hood cleaning and fire protection services. So when we merged, we brought the corporate office headquarters information to Indianapolis. It allowed us to expand our service line here in the Midwest, but also take our fire protection services east.
People, I think, would be amazed at some of your customers. You're doing business in numerous states. Talk about some of the high-profile businesses, organizations, iconic places that you do business.
Absolutely. So we're very blessed. We have over 20,000 addresses that we service on a recurring basis every year. Some of the big names, most famous landmarks, the Pentagon, Air Force One. We do a lot of work in the Capitol, Times Square, Freedom Tower. We do Las Vegas casinos, including the most important NFL stadium in the country, Lucas Oil
Stadium, right? Very good. What's been key to the growth? Because you have added not only a number of markets, but a lot of employees as well.
It's absolutely culture. We did a complete brand culture refresh back in 2018 to really bring the company together. The East Coast mentality obviously is different than the Midwest mentality, the hospitality that we have here. So it was really important that we came together. And we have a lot of extracurricular opportunities and benefits for our team that really focus on their personal life, because we want to build great people. And if they happen to be good here at Nelbud, that's great. If not, at least we can kind of help manage that process, which really gets the loyalty for us as well.
You are looking at national expansion, Pittsburgh, Nashville, among those markets. But here in Indiana, as we wrap up, a real focus on northern Indiana and also here in the Indianapolis region.
Absolutely. So we opened up our brick and mortar store in South Bend, Indiana earlier this year. We have Fort Wayne and also Evansville to kind of round out our Indiana coverage. And then we're looking at potentially going west and maybe opening up in Terre Haute to help with the eastern Illinois sector, but also the west kind of part of the state.
Wabash Valley. Very
Absolutely.
good. Michael Crafton is president and CEO at Nelbud Services, a great entrepreneurial success story here in Indiana. Michael, it's always great to see you.
Absolutely.
Good luck going forward.
Thank you.
All right.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. Still to come, a Hoosier company looks to make your kids' water safer, and we get a preview of the Indy Women in Tech Championship. But first, from Martinsville to Cambridge City to Atlanta, Indiana, the Hoosier State offers several destination shopping spots. Yelp Midwest Regional Director Brittany Smith has a rundown in this month's Trendiana segment.
Destination shopping. This is becoming kind of a bit of a craze around the country, I assume, but also here in Indiana.
Yeah, more and more places, as much as online shopping continues to grow, people still want to have those in-person human experiences, and especially with the do-it-yourself culture, people love going places to get decor tips and learn from experts and make an adventure out of it.
Yeah. Okay, as always, you've got some great locations around the state of Indiana. We begin in Martinsville and the Marshmallow Monkey.
Yeah, this is a newer business that just opened a few months ago, family-owned and operated in a barn located on their family farm. So it's a beautiful setting. You can go there to find home decor, floral designs, get expert opinions from them about your own home decor, and leave with some advice.
Yeah. Going up to Atlanta, Indiana, Mercantile 37, which is on 37. Talk about that, because it's a converted old diner and truck stop, right?
Yeah, it itself is its own preservation. So this is a fun spot because you can go, you've got a cafe in-house, the Wheeler Cafe, so you can go and get coffee, sandwiches, make a whole afternoon of it. They've got over 50 Indiana artisans under one roof, so they're always bringing in new items that you can check out, upcycled items as well. So people love to go there and explore each round because there's always new items.
And that's truly a destination, kind of a one-stop shop where you have so many things, so many people there, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things that the Yelp reviews are always like, it's well worth going out of your way because it is kind of in the middle of nowhere, but close to Noblesville, and it's a great way to make a trip.
Very good. All right, this is a place that lots of folks are familiar familiar with. Midland Arts and Antiques Marketplace near East Side here in Indianapolis.
Yes, right on the Near East Side, which is a great spot for people who love to travel and do a half day of antiquing. There's multiple businesses within that area to do so. 3 floors of different stalls with everything from taxidermy to a stall with all maps and globes. You can truly find everything under one roof. And each week that you visit, you're going to see different items.
Yeah, there are a number of antique spots around the state of Indiana. Cambridge City, eastern Indiana, it's a great location for antiques as well, and really a focus of this destination shopping.
Exactly. It's known as Antique Alley for Indiana. So you can go within 2 blocks and have 13 different antique shops. So you can hop between one to the next. It's also not too far from Richmond, Indiana, so you can make a fun trip out of it that way, as well as the Warm Glow Candle located on I-70. So you can make a whole afternoon out of that.
All right, and the final stop this week is Madison Street Salvage in Franklin.
Yeah, and if you have a historic home, this spot is definitely for you. You can go and find, old doors, fixtures, lighting fixtures. The beautiful thing about it is all the funds are going back to historic preservation, like the Art Craft Theater in Franklin, Indiana. So they've really got a great cause there and a good way to get some historic items.
And Franklin has done such a nice job, continues to with their downtown and with restoring the buildings.
Yeah, I was just at a business actually last week, Main and Madison, a cafe right there, and it's another great example. Old doctor shop turned into a coffee shop.
All right, destination shopping, some great stuff. Brittany Smith, as always, thanks. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Later in the podcast, the Indy Women in Tech Championship is coming, and our panel of insiders takes on the week's top stories. But now, 120 Water Audit is focusing its attention on testing lead in water at public schools. Lead testing is not required by law. Director of Environmental Policy and Programs, Erica Walker, joined Kylie Valletta in the business of health.
We mentioned in the introduction that states are sort of left to figure this out on their own. So tell us how Indiana tackled the problem and what we found here in Indiana.
Yeah, that's right. So there are 14 states currently that require public schools to test for lead by law. And as you mentioned at the top of the segment, Indiana is not one of them. But our agencies aren't standing idly by. So the Indiana Finance Authority in 2017 offered voluntary testing assistance to all public schools. And that included the cost of sending out field teams to collect the samples, analyzing those samples, and then helping schools understand what the results meant and what they could do. During that program, about 50% of school districts participated. And about 60% of those had at least one fixture that had lead concentrations over 15 parts per billion. And that is the threshold that the US EPA uses to regulate water utilities. It's not a health-based standard. As you probably have heard, there's no safe level of lead. And to give you kind of a sense of what these concentrations mean, 1 part per billion would be the equivalent roughly of a drop of water in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. So these are really small concentrations, but the point is that we need to test drinking water in order to understand if there's a risk. And then it's really the simple choice of how do we get rid of the sources.
And so you mentioned that 50% of schools took advantage of this. So some schools may not have tested for a variety of reasons. Some may not have tested if they were afraid the remediation would have been really expensive. So that wasn't really what you found in this report though, right?
That's right. So the state agency ended up tracking remediation cost for each school that participated, or a subgroup rather of those that participated. And they found that on average, a school that replaced fixtures spent $550. And that represents sort of a range. So replacing a faucet, for example, might cost $200, while replacing a water cooler would be more expensive, something between $800 and maybe $1,200. So right, there are simple and sometimes low-cost solutions. So the fear of finding something shouldn't keep schools from testing. This is an environmental health risk, and providing clean water is certainly part of ensuring a safe environment for kids.
And tell us how your company really kind of comes alongside agencies, schools, to sort of help them wade through this complicated topic.
Right. So we're primarily a software company. So we have created a cloud-based software system, and we work directly with utilities, schools and daycares, public agencies to manage drinking water programs. We are in 12 different states, and our customers provide drinking water to over 4.5 million people. So specifically in the lead world, our cloud-based software is used to manage these drinking water programs, everything from taking down information about fixtures to tracking remediation. We also sell kits, so these would be the bottles that are used to take the samples, or pitcher filters, something that can be used as sort of a short-term remediation strategy. And then services as well. So we'll come alongside and we'll help with either sampling, reporting, just providing kind of the expertise that fuels the program.
So we have just a few seconds left, but to make this news you can use, what should parents do if they want to know if their school tested, and what can school administrators do?
Yep. So the first thing parents can do is say they care about this issue. So call your school district, see if they've tested. If they've not, encourage them to do so and to share the results. School administrators should definitely consider testing. Keep an eye out for the Indiana Finance Authority's program. They announced that they're going to be continuing it, so there may be some assistance out there.
All right. Thank you, Erica. Such an important topic.
Yeah.
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Still to come, perspective on the top stories of the week from our panel of insiders. But first, the LPGA's Indy Women in Tech Championship is set for this month. The tournament will feature 132 players competing for a share of a $2 million purse, but the event involves much more than golf. Local organizing committee chair Jennifer Pope Baker spoke with Bill Benner on Inside Indiana Sports.
Great to have you on the show. You were on last week as an
Pleasure
insider,
to be
and now
here.
you're really an insider on the IWIT Golf coming up here, beginning with the Pro-Am and later in the month, 25th, and then the 72-hole tournament. This is a great event. Talk about it.
It's a huge event. It's so much fun. I feel really fortunate that the LPGA chose Indianapolis for a 3-year gig, and this is our 3rd year. I think it's going to be our best year yet. We have an outstanding field of women who will be joining us. They are incredibly smart, incredibly talented, great role models. It's a super family event, and we really hope to see a lot of the Indianapolis community out cheering them on.
Man, I've been around LPGA golf for a long, long time, going all the way back to the Mayflower event, and these women can play. When you see them up close and personal, you just go, wow, they're good.
They're really good, and what I love is the way they're willing to connect with kids. And in the autograph alley at the end, they will sign autographs until the last kid leaves. They're so kind and so thoughtful, and make those kids feel important and make them feel connected to golf in a way that kids don't often have the opportunity to do so.
Jennifer is also the executive director of the Women's Fund of Central Indiana. Talk about the women's tie-in and the other events, including the IWIT Summit that will take place at the Brickyard.
So the IWIT Championship, which is driven by Group 1001, was created to help fuel interest in technology and STEM for women and girls that they would consider a career in technology in Indiana. And so there are activities all week long to encourage that. On Tuesday, we have a summit where we'll have local and national speakers to meet with an audience of 600 technology folks from our community, both women and men. And then throughout the week, we will also have programming for younger people. We'll have a Eureka exchange for elementary students who will come and have hands-on experiences with technology and with science. And then we also have a special program for high school students where they can meet technology leaders in different companies to see what career possibilities are, and then what kind of education do you need to be a part of whatever that career path might be.
And a wonderful charitable aspect of all, the Indy Women in Tech Foundation. They raised $180,000 last year. That's amazing.
It is amazing. Then it helps, again, for that organization to put back into the community opportunities for kids to learn about robotics and to learn about programming and to learn all the different ways that they can engage in STEM, and particularly encouraging girls to become involved, because girls often get really excited, and as they hit middle school and high school, they tend to pull away and not engage in the same way that they used to.
And another cool aspect of the tournament is the way they, of course it's at the Brickyard, but the finishing holes are the 4 iconic holes inside the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and then the winner gets to take a slug of the milk
and kiss the bricks, which is pretty cool. So the very first year when our winner kissed the bricks, she was the first woman to ever have the opportunity to do that. at the Speedway.
Some volunteer opportunities, and so if you'd like to go out and really be up and close with the action, how could they go about that, Jennifer?
They can go to the IWITChamp, IWITChamp.com website. There are great opportunities for hole marshals, for people to help with transportation, and for people to serve as standard bearers, and in hospitality. Just like any other sporting event in Indianapolis, we need our great Hoosier volunteers to come show the world what a wonderful place we are to live and work.
Well, we appreciate you coming on the show again, and as if you don't have enough to do with your day job, taking on the role as chairperson of the IWIT Champ. We wish you the best. Let's hope for great weather at the Brickyard.
And finally, our insiders weigh in on Indiana's top business stories. This week's panel includes content by Carter CEO Cam Carter, Hallowell Consulting President Jennifer Hallowell, and IndyPolitics.org publisher Abdul Hakim Shabazz.
We begin with the Red Line Mass Transit. The Mass Transit vision for Indianapolis and Marion County officially underway, launched about a week ago with much fanfare. Abdul, I'll start with you. This first month is free. Just judging from the news coverage, the social media presence, a lot of positives.
I think overall it's been good. Busy, full ridership. That first opening week of the Red Line, they had a few hiccups sort of along the way as they were sort of kind of beta testing the line. I think the true test of the Red Line is going to be is what happened when we're done with the sort of the 30-day free ridership period, and number two, when sort of the newness kind of wears off. Will this get the people using mass transit that need to? And my concern has never been the people who live in Broad Ripple who want to go drink in Fountain Square. It's more those folks who live along that 38th, 42nd Street corridor who need to get downtown to those service sector jobs, which this economy badly needs. And the thing is, will they use it? If they use it, then I know it's going to work.
And then, this obviously is the first phase. And will you really get that indication of that workforce connection until these additional, spokes and lines get built out?
And see, that's the other part of it too, which is once again we're just in sort of in that in the shiny metal object phase where everybody likes it. But as we were talking about earlier before we went on the air, it's not so much the trunk; it's the branches that matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jennifer, your take on it, because a lot of supporters, but a lot of skepticism, too, leading up to the launch.
Yeah, there is, and I think there still will be for a long time until we figure out whether it is successful. I do credit the city and Indigo and some of the organizations, the Indy Chamber, who really pushed for this. They did a great job with the rollout in terms of bringing attention, getting people on in the first weekend. Now we need to see, are they going to ride through the week and leave their cars at home for work? But I've been surprised by the number of young people who I talk to who are excited about it and planning to use it every day.
Interesting. And Cam, I was at 18th and Meridian driving home earlier this week. Mm-hmm. And in a span of about 25 seconds, I saw an Indigo bus, a new bus, go by. I saw a couple of bicyclists, people on bikes, bike lanes, and then I saw some scooters. And I thought, you know what? This is a different Indianapolis. It's beginning that transition maybe to a different connectivity mode, if you will.
May we all be able to peacefully coexist. These are a lot of different modes of transportation. Right. I think Abdul hit it on the head. This is new and free are the most powerful words in marketing. Let's look at this a few fiscal quarters down the trail when it's no longer free, when the novelty is worn off, when the winter and the cold temperatures get here. Mm-hmm. But I have every degree of confidence that it's going to take off. There's no thriving major metropolitan area in this country that doesn't have a decent public transportation system. This is a tremendous upgrade, but we've got to get that trunk and then get out to those branches.
Yeah, Jennifer mentioned the launch and being a good launch by Indigo and the city, especially in light of the buildup the weeks before with the traffic and the headaches that were part and parcel of that process leading up to it, and it turned out to be a good launch.
Yeah, let's knock on wood, and I hope that continues. No major undertaking like this is going to be without its hiccups.
Yep. Another big launch, actually the same weekend, sports betting in Indiana now legal. Governor Holcomb placed that first bet, or bets, I think, in Shelbyville. Jennifer, as you look at that, I think a lot of people wondered when gaming became a possibility for states that Indiana, I think the expectation was Indiana might lag. Right. But actually Indiana in this case is leading.
Really leading, and I wouldn't have predicted it maybe in the beginning, would hope for it, but it's exciting that Indiana is leading on this. And so we've seen companies like Caesars just is in the process of launching 7 sports books in 19 days just in Indiana. So and they've spent significant money renovating their facilities. And I think that the Shelbyville launch was one of their biggest launches in their company.
I think Shelbyville becomes the biggest sports book for Caesars outside of Vegas.
Yeah, it's incredibly exciting, and it makes a lot of sense. I mean, this is the next phase in gaming. There's been a lot of money left on the table. People have been sports betting for years and years, right? There's billions of dollars that have been happening kind of in the dark over the last few years, and now it's out in the open. We're going to be able to seize that revenue, and once the mobile betting starts, which is going to come in a couple of months, it's going to really be the ticket, I think, for new revenue and a boost for the state.
Abdul, your take on it. You follow the State House, how it rolled out, and then what we're going to see. Jennifer said, mobile betting and those types of things going forward.
It was interesting because when I watched the whole gaming debate, not just the sports betting, but also the casinos and some of the other things that were taking place, sports betting was actually the low-hanging fruit. That was actually the easy one for lawmakers to sort of get behind and get around. Part of it because, like Jennifer said, it's been going on for so long. You're really not creating new gaming. You're just basically bringing above ground what had been underground. What I find fascinating in the last several years, Indiana has sports betting, Sunday alcohol sales. So can legal marijuana be far behind?
You've been pushing for that for a long time, Abdul. I know.
It can be very far behind.
We will see. Switching gears now to the economy and some stories and news this week, kind of reflective of perhaps a changing economy. Nestle announcing plans to close an Indianapolis plant, idling about 170 workers. They announced layoffs of about 40 workers in Fort Wayne earlier. A lot of attention in Elkhart and the RV market. Big story in the Wall Street Journal recently about RVs and the downturn there being perhaps an indicator of what might be ahead in terms of recession. Cam, as you look at it, is it reason for concern? I hear both. I hear people say, not to worry about it, at least not next year.
Yeah, I think there is reason for concern. There's some indicators there. The inverted yield curves on treasuries, they slow down, but then you have other data that's out there. Walmart, Lowe's had good retail quarters. So it all depends on, I think, what consumer spending does, what the Fed will do in the future, and how many of these are strategic moves by companies that are restructuring and trying to take advantage. When you get into those logistics hubs, which several of these projects this week are involved with, Indiana's central location and its ability to get to market and the consolidation of operations are very critical. One of these is kind of a labor story. There's been a months-long strike.
Yeah, Regal Beloit.
Regal Beloit. Yep. They have a facility in Valparaiso. They also have one that's non-union in Monticello, Indiana. So the jobs would move there, but they'd be non-union. So is that really an economic expansion, or is that a labor dispute? Remains to be seen. But I think if you're not looking at a cautious flashing yellow light on the economy right now, you may want to.
Interesting. Jennifer, there are political implications too to an economic slowdown. Any thoughts in that regard?
Well, I think it's hard to say for sure what's happening. Things have been so good for so long that you do expect something to change. And the RV industry, which people look at it as an indicator, but if you listen to what some of those manufacturers are saying, they had such an increase in demand in 2017 that perhaps they overbuilt in 2018, and now things might kind of right size out by the end of this year. And so I think there's a lot of factors before we really know where that's headed.
Give you a final word on that.
I think what this does tell us, though, is that responsible fiscal management, particularly for state and local governments, is extremely important because you want to make sure you have the reserves on hand. So when the slowdown happens, which we all know it will, the question is going to be a soft landing or a hard crash.
Cam, we'll give you the last word on Andrew Luck. Certainly it's a big sports story, kind of a big story overall. There's an Andrew Luck Day, the city kind of saying thank you. There was critics out there. You think it's a good idea to really honor this guy?
Absolutely.
Yep.
I admired him when he was on the field. I admired the courage and something that's lacking in our society, wisdom, to take a hard look and in a very tortured decision, make the best decision for himself.
Yeah.
He owes the city of Indianapolis nothing. He really delivered for us, got us to all believe again. looking forward to the next man up.
Yep, and his off the field exploits too.
Godspeed to Andrew
Very
Luck and whatever he wants to do next, and hopefully he stays here. And I think he'll excel in whatever field he enters.
Very well said. Cam Carter, Jennifer Hollowell, also Abdul Hakim Shabazz. Thanks, one and all.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state, at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.